Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to be looking at one of Honinbo Shusaku's games. Honinbo Shusaku is maybe the most famous historical Go player, maybe the strongest. He has the white stones in this game. His opponent is Mizutani Junsaku. The unusual thing about this game is that they're playing star points. So both of the players played a star point, and we have this position in the top right corner where black has kicked at b17, and after that white has invaded at r17. So this is very annoying for black, and it's also very relevant to modern Go. So that's going to be one of the main topics of my commentary. And then there will be some middle game positions that I look into also. So you can think how black should reply to this while I introduce the players. Kuwabara Shusaku was the name of Shusaku before he became the heir to the Honinbo clan. This was a couple of years before he played the famous ear-reddening move against Gan Inseki, and so he had not become the heir yet. His opponent, Mizutani Junsaku, was a senior student at the Honinbo school, and so he was acting as a teacher, you might say, or a mentor for Shusaku. From 1843 to 1844, they played a lot of games against each other. Mizutani was the stronger player, or at least he had the higher rank, so they started with Shusaku taking black all the time, and they went back and forth between that and Shusaku taking black 2 out of 3 games, which was the next stage in the handicap system. By the way, Mizutani Junsaku, also he called himself Kado no Tadazaemon. He changed his name to Mizutani because he became the leader of the Mizutani clan. So that was affiliated with the Honinbo school. Okay, it's unusual for players of this era to play star points in an even game. So they did have star points, of course, in handicap games. Okay, so both players have played as Shimari also, so it's a unusually peaceful opening, you might say also. And black plays the extension, so it's a good extension for both players to play in the middle of the side here. Slightly old school to be playing an extension instead of a, for instance, this would be a direct 3-free invasion in modern Go. And white jumps. So this is surrounding the right side with the 4th and 3rd lines. It's a good balance with these 2 stones on a diagonal. So it's said that you want to have 1 stone on the 3rd line and 1 stone on the 4th line when you're surrounding territory on the side. And black extended. Extending here is a reasonably good move. And now black kicked. I wouldn't fault someone for playing the Hanesugi on the O line fairly early. So for instance, at this point, black could have played this Hanesugi. And that would have established the corner territory. So that would have been a big move. Black has a cut at N17 since the lighter favors black, so black has that threat. But the fact that black didn't do that, it made it a very interesting game because now white invades. So black has a lot of potential ways to answer this. It's a very challenging position because sometimes there's a ladder involved. Black does have to be careful about the connection of the black stones. So actually, I made a video of this, a related video of when black has not played at R14, but instead has played a 1-space jump at Q14. I made a video of the Joseki variations, some of the basic Joseki variations. So I'll put a link for that video in the description. Okay, so black, the one move that you generally don't want to play is this one. It's backing off. It's really the most passive move. It's a bit painful when white gets to play the Hane here, and black is going to lose most of the corner territory. Going straight down, there are problems with this also. So in this case, the stone that white has on the right side at R10 is aiding white in that white is threatening to connect underneath with a jump at this point. At S13, white can link up. If black covers here, white can live in the corner. If black jumps, The corner isn't even going to die next. It's going to be a ko or something if black plays it S18. And so white might even just play away. So the problem with this kind of variation is that if the white group in the corner lives, then the black group on the outside is eyeless. So there's potential that this black group can get chased around later in the game. And it's not advisable for black to get into this variation. So let's look at what they played in the game. So in the game, black played here. So going diagonal like this is good. So basically it's a combination of the O18 and the Q18 points. Black's making this hanging connection there. Even if white doesn't play at 1 at N18, black's going to eventually be playing at Q18. So it's a better shape for black. And the stone at 2, when we compare it to the variation where black went straight down here, the stone at Q18 is putting more pressure on the white stone in the corner. So that's why diagonal is good. So white slides. So one of the things relevant to this move is that the ladder favors black. So later on, black can cut at N17. So that's something black is thinking of doing. So for instance, in a variation like this, white would have more trouble living in the corner. For instance, this would not be alive as it stands. White might sacrifice this corner, but black does have the cut here. So white's not gaining so much. Black might end up protecting the corner, just to stop white from saving that 3-point stone. But that stone at 10 is annoying too. So white hasn't really gained that much in this variation. So white immediately slided. This makes sense to me. In the game black played here, it doesn't seem to be the best move. So it's probably better. I would advise black should play here and here. So this is taking away some of white's eye space in the corner. And white will be alive, but black has a forcing move at Q18. So that's one of the forcing moves. That's why white has to jump here instead of covering at N18. And now black's going to play something here. So the white group in the corner, it's sort of alive if you allow that black can force with Q18. Black does have a ko sometimes at S19, so that black has a good shape on the outside. So this would be playable for black. White hasn't gained any territory. White has actually lost territory on the top side. So that's another reason why this would be playable for black. It's a better shape than some other shapes that black could get into. In the game, black played here. If black plays here, white's idea is to play the peep here. So it would be nice if black could capture the stones like this. This would capture the 3 white stones. But white has this peep, which is threatening one or the other of the cuts. So black will probably play here and white gets to cut here, capturing that stone at O18. So in the game, black played here. All right. And white played here. And now black played here. This is actually, it's not going to work. So this might have been a mistake. I'd say black should just play here and continue on the outside. So something like this. Black 11 there is the final move that black wants to play to make good shape, a connection. So having the stones diagonal like this, in diagonal shapes like this, is the way to make eyes. It's a better way to make eyes than having that stone at a straight place like P18 would be. So this would be an acceptable variation for black. In the game, black plays here, and at this point, black cannot continue in the corner. So if black tries to capture white in the corner, let's do it at this point. White can cut and then play here. So this is an Atari, and then white can cut here. So whether or not black connects. So if black connects, white's going to play here anyway. This is even worse for black. So black will take, and white will cut on this side, capturing those black stones in the corner. So black instead played here. So he's setting up a ladder. So if white captures in the corner, black will capture in a ladder. This would be good for black. So at this point, white, for the time being, white is going to sacrifice the corner. White actually could have sacrificed the corner by taking this, and black would play here. White would probably play here. This would be okay for white. This is also an option for white. In the game, he took the territory. I can understand white taking that territory. It's something like more than 15 points, so it's a fairly big move. And black got to extend. So he played here, allowed white to play here, and played here. So while making a living shape, black was threatening to push through it m15 later. Very good positional judgment, I would say, for white to play away at that point, just leaving everything light and expendable. White doesn't need to save the 5 stones on the N and O lines. Okay, the shoulder hit here is a standard way of reducing the black territory, the black area in the lower left area. Okay, the one space jump here, it's related to white's peep here. So when white has played a one space jump and peeps, later on in the game, white is sort of set up to play this and cut the black stone off. So that's how the white stone at K6 is working well with this variation. So sometimes white will be thinking of doing that. Otherwise, white would have played a 2-space jump. So this would also be a fairly standard shape for white to play when white's trying to run out into the center. So the fact that he played a 1-space jump, it's related to this peep that white played immediately after that. Okay, I did want to talk about this move. So when I play a move like this, I actually don't know how it's going to turn out because that mainly depends on how black responds. And in itself, this move, it generally doesn't work. So it has to be combined with some other kind of aji. So for instance, if black plays here, white doesn't have enough room to live on the left side. Maybe white would try something like this, maybe immediately, maybe later in the game. And it could eventually link up to that stone. So if white continues playing moves in the area, then that exchange of b4 for black c3 can become a kikashi, a profit for white. So like I'm talking about variations where white gets stones like this. Obviously, it was good for white to have that exchange in this variation. Okay, in the game black played here, and it's dead anyway. So the fact that it's dead, whatever white does, whatever black does, it means that it's really hard to judge what's going on here. Let's take a look at how it dies, actually. So white played here, and black played here. This is the game variation. If white had continued here, then black would play here and then cut. So this is actually a pretty standard sequence where black gets to squeeze the white group. And the thing about this one is that that stone that black has on the 6th line at f6 is helping black surround this white group. If white plays here, black just squeezes. And this one is going to be dead. Okay, so in the game he didn't go on with that, and he played here. So this sort of relates to the variation I was just showing you, and that if black plays something elsewhere, then white can play this now. And now white just curls around here. So this is making a weakness towards the upper left area, upper left part of that side. And now white can just live now because of this move. So white can cut here because of that stone at c8. So black answered, and so white got this. So the 2 stones in the corner were captured, but white got to play 2 stones on the side, and it's still sort of undecided how that's going to turn out, but white did get an extra move there, which made it an interesting fight. So white plays here, so white's trying to escape. The black group on the side is not alive yet, so black played here. I think it would have been more active for black to play this first. So this is the move that was played later in the game. It's the Tetsuji to attack white. So if white plays on this side, black will be able to capture 2 white stones by playing here. It could be that white's going to save the 2 stones. So if white plays here, it will become difficult for black to continue playing because white's threatening to play at b8 and capture the stones on the side. So black would probably just escape now. In this case, white has to save the stones on the outside, this group on the fourth line mostly. This group. White has to save this group, but also has issues with this group and a black move at b15 later on in the game. So it would be more difficult for white to continue, I think. In the game, black omitted playing this exchange, and white just sacrificed those 2 stones later. So it was an opportunity for black to ask if white was going to sacrifice the 2 stones on the 12th line or not. So he just escaped, and now you see white just sacrifices them. Okay. But of course, in these games from the 19th century, there's no komi. So generally black can play fairly solidly and still have a playable game. In this game, white did mostly catch up in that variation that we looked at in the top right. Okay, white's trying to reinforce the group on the bottom side. And he plays the biggest move. So with this, white has a slight advantage in territory. But white has 2 weak groups, one on the left side and one on the bottom side. And black splits them. So this is making sense. Black's threatening a wedge at g10. So before defending against the wedge, it's important for white to play this peep and exchange here. So he's creating some aji at f7, just a little bit. And black peeps. So this is stopping white from pushing through and cutting there. And he's also taking away white's eyes. So it's otherwise he could have played here, and then white would have had the option of living. So if white plays here and here, k2 and h7, those 2 points will be miai, and white will be able to live. Okay, so white escapes. So there's these 2 white groups that are weak, and black is attacking. The question is whether black can push white around a lot in the center of the board. So white's trying to dodge that. And in this variation, he's creating some damezumari with this move here that he played. But he maybe got a bit too fancy. So at this point, white did still have some advantage in territory, although he's got some weak groups. So settling the weak groups would be a way to deal with that. So this would be a relatively peaceful way to play. And Katago says that white has a small lead. So it would be good enough, I suppose, for Katago to do it this way. The way Shusaku plays is much more interesting. He plays here. And if black captures the white stones like this, he didn't play this move. But if he plays that, white's going to be able to escape in the center here. And so this is going to change. So for instance, if white plays here, he can escape with those 2 stones and cut off the black 2 stones in the center. So this would be a way for white to counterattack. So instead, black captures the 1 stone. Black doesn't really have to worry about this group. It's got eyes if black plays at e14. So he's not really worried about that. And this capture that black has just played, it is going to participate in the fight in the center. So this is another point where maybe white should have pulled back here to escape. Black does have some attacking potential. So something like this, for instance. And black would get this big point in the corner. So black 8 is a pretty important point. And black's groups in the center are strong enough. So this would have been a very close game. Okay, in the game, white plays here and here. And this created an opportunity for black. So it was here, black's group on the top side, this group here. People might be worried about this one. This group now, there's a potential cut at e8, so that's not safe. White's 2 groups are very weak. This group here it only has half an eye at this point. So there's half an eye there. And even if it connects up to these stones, if black can break through on the top side, then it's hard to see where the rest of white's eyes are going to be. So this group is still weak, and white has a weak group on this side, which is potentially a ko on the bottom side. So this was an opportunity for black to attack. Let's just take a quick look at the game variation. After playing the exchange of L13 for J14, black's group on the top side was in a bit more danger. So now he saves that group, and it gave white sente to cut here. So this cut was pretty important for various reasons. So first of all, if white plays the Tari here, white can make an eye at D8. So the point at D8 or the point at E10, one of these 2 points is going to be an eye for white. That means that with one eye, white can probably end up making an eye maybe somewhere around here. Even if black breaks through in the top side, looks like there's some room for white to make a second eye. So cutting here, to a certain degree, it's saved that white group on that side. It's also weakened black's group in the center. So actually, for instance, in the game variation, when black played here, white could push here, and there's a double peep at J9. So black can't capture the one stone because white's going to peep here and capture the black stones. So it was painful that black had to play here, and white got to take away black's eye space. So this has weakened the black group. So going back a few moves, before playing that exchange on the top, black should have played here right now, before white gets the cut at E8. And this is important because now black is moving from a position of strength. White doesn't have time to do this kind of stuff. So if white does this and this, then because white has not cut yet at E8, black has time to play the bamboo joint, and everything is safe. And white's going to be falling behind in his attempts to escape in the center. So that one move difference would mean that white would not be able to counterattack, and then black could play here. So it would be a completely different variation where black has a strong group in the center. So the strength of black's group in the center here is very important. And then black could allow white to cut at 14 because black's already alive in the center. So it wouldn't be such a big deal. In fact, you can see that the white group is not 100% alive anyway. So in a variation something like this, black would live by capturing at 17, and white would not be alive yet. Black would have a strong group in the center. This would be a winning position for black. Okay, in the game, it was pretty amazing how well this worked out for white. So white connects here. Black has a cutting point that black has to defend, and so white got the peep here once before defending here. So this became more efficient. Black has to do something about the cut at M11, and he did it this way. So this was a point where maybe it was slightly better to play here. This would also be threatening white in the center. White would probably play something like this and like this. So this variation is a more active way for black to save the group in the center. And at this point, the issue is how much territory white gets on the right side. So this would be, maybe if we compare it to the game, it would be more threatening towards white's position on the right. So let's look at the game. In the game, black played here. And amazingly, everything is safe. So this group is connected. White is just trying to make black back down from the ko there. And now white plays here. And it turns out that this exchange in the center is going to reinforce the whole white group. So this forced black to play here. White got the peep. And the whole right side has become a white territory. So at this point, the game is very close. Looks like white has a very small lead. Let's just look through the rest of the moves. This is a Tetsuji. Black still has some potential to attack white in the center. So white has to be relatively careful here. And black has scooped out most of the top side. So this was, locally, it was a successful sequence for black. By connecting at J15, white has made a potential eye here. So at this point, or at this point, white has a potential eye there. White has a potential eye here, and white has a potential eye here. So after black protected here, white has 3 potential eyes. Yeah, so at some point in this variation, black could have played here. And although the black group on the bottom side is not alive, white's big group in the center is not alive either. But the fact that white has... So for instance, if black cuts white off, white has 2 places to make eyes. So a combination of 1, 2, and 6 were the eyes that white had in the case that black cuts through at 3 and 5. White would actually answer here. It might have been a good idea for black to play that exchange. So like this. And then live here. This might have been slightly better than the game. At this point, I think white does have a small lead, although it became a 1-point difference. So the end game, I'll just go through the moves here. It looks like a good sequence. So black did some strange things towards the end, but that was just because he was losing by 1 point anyway. So he was trying to mix things up. So like this, leaving the Atari on the bottom side, strictly speaking, it was bad. But Shusaku just kept playing 1-point moves and let it be the same result. So it would have been a 1-point win for him anyway. I think maybe black didn't have enough ko threats to be doing that ko on the bottom side, but it didn't matter because Shusaku didn't play the ko. So this was the game of Shusaku against Mizutani Junsaku. And Shusaku won by 1 point. So it was his first game as white in this set of games at this handicap, where he was playing black 2 out of 3 games. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back